Welcome to the first Social Creatures podcast. We finally got this up and running. My name is Nathaniel. I'm the content producer at Social Creatures. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, strategist at Social Creatures, Mongezi Lupindo. How are you, my man?
Good. Jeez, that was so official. Like, esteemed colleague.
You are the esteemed colleague. Esteemed, I say.
No, really excited for our first podcast. I mean, we've been trying to get this out of the ground for a minute now.
Yeah.
So finally got it. Just like what Nathaniel said, I am the social strategist here at Social Creatures.
And for those who don't know, we like the new kids on the block.
Yes.
The little fishy that no one knows about that's soon growing into a big fish. And we know this because we got an award last year at the Assegas.
Yes.
Yeah, Newcomer Award. We're very proud about that. So a quick background in who Social Creatures are. We only about 6 months old now?
We infant, it's about 6 months.
6 months roughly.
Yes, but we've done quite well for the clients that we do have in terms of, I think, getting them into the social business and connecting with their audiences. So it's quite a good milestone for us. We have more things on the pipeline.
And what do we do, Mongezi? What do we do?
What do we do?
This is a very important question that the person listening to this podcast is asking.
Basically, we're a social media consultancy agency. So both creative and actual business consultancy in terms of social media.
Yeah.
We do everything from advisory to reputation management to creative.
It's great that you mentioned what you just said, the fact that we do consultancy and we sit down with a lot of clients, and we have sat down with various clients. And one of the main things that pops up way in the beginning is always ROI, which is evidently our topic for today that we're going to cover in the first podcast. ROI. I can tell you for free that as soon as I got into this industry, I cannot tell you every single time I've sat in a meeting with client, you hear about ROI.
Yeah, no, ROI is a big one. Brand managers, senior management agree that social media is a critical part of their business. But again, the biggest challenge is how do we attribute business success and business goal to social media?
Yeah.
Which brings us to this big question that we always sit with at boardrooms. How do you prove ROI? It's like we're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
We understand what the role of social media is to business. We understand measuring social media throughout a consumer journey.
Yeah.
But the challenge becomes the client that we service, and we haven't done really a good job in educating them in terms of what social media is about and building together with the client a measurement framework.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we've let our clients down in that whole education phase around what is the role of social media?
Yeah.
How do you measure it throughout the consumer journey? And also how do you attribute it to your business success? It's slightly more easier from a small business perspective to sort of measure. Brand awareness, we can do that, click-through rates, all that stuff. But when you come in an enterprise perspective, when there's just so many things moving and different business units, it becomes quite difficult, especially if the client themselves do not understand the ecosystem, except the fact that you have to be on social media.
Yeah, exactly.
But now the onus is on us to start proving that this platform, this channel work. How we can simplify the whole thing is that we have to create this framework, this ROI framework, beyond just engagement and brand awareness down to the sales channel.
Yeah.
I think businesses themselves have to be really explicit in terms of what their business objectives are and their business goals, but also have to map up the different marketing channels have to play to actually getting that sale. We really still have to do a good job in educating the business suite or the executive suite in terms of what social media is.
Yeah.
How can it play at every phase of your business? I think, for an example, people always think that social media will, get you the sales. If you think about it, it's seldom that people go to social media to buy things.
Yeah.
So we can inspire them, we can get brand love, we can customer service, but it's really difficult to prove that the customer actually went to social media to buy your product.
Yeah.
So you always have to see social media within a bigger digital platform. It's also our job, and that's where we come in from a consultancy perspective, showing clients or showing brands at which stage within the consumer journey social media plays a role. So I think it becomes really important that businesses understand that ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why should, if a big business, I'm sure everybody's on social media, but if you were to tell someone who's sitting with a 40K budget that you should actually spend 40K on, and this is just a rough estimate, this is not based on factual.
Wow, 40K.
Exactly. You just have 40K. Does it make sense to pitch and say, listen, you should be spending that money on social and not necessarily avoid the traditional sense, but it makes a lot more sense, more from a, not necessarily a brand awareness point of view, but if you have an emotional story, not emotional story, a narrative, emotional narrative that links to your audience, it would make sense to push that marketing budget towards social.
Yeah. No, I think every brand does have a story. And the really cool thing about social media is that it does bring the brand to life, the brand personality, who you are outside the products that you sell. But also, given the 40K, we know that it's virtually impossible these days to organically reach the audiences that you want to reach without putting some payment behind it.
Because you're fighting against clutter in that space.
Fighting against...
tons of clutter.
Yes, clutter, reach has been cannibalized lately, so you need to actually put money behind to actually get those people that you want to reach.
Yeah.
The whole ecosystem now, remember when Google started and everybody was like investing their money in search? You have to be in that space.
Very important.
And you started looking at bidding for words became very expensive. So now on social media, since budgets are shifting towards this channel, we find that the whole ecosystem has become quite competitive. So now you actually have to get more money in to reach the audiences. But I think there are some ways to overcome those, by really just connecting with your audiences, producing relevant content that speaks to the people that you want to reach.
Yeah.
Now we know it's with Facebook, they've changed this algorithm where they're prioritizing peer-to-peer communication rather than brands and consumers. So within that ecosystem, you definitely have to now put a lot of money to reach the right audiences that you want to reach.
There needs to be money behind relevance, is what you're saying. At that point, when money is spent and it is relevant, can you guarantee return on investment? Is that something that you can pin down and say, this will happen in a report? Or is it something where, you're like, we'll see, and we can only optimize accordingly as time goes by?
I don't think it's a we'll see job. I think the nice thing about digital platforms is that you are able to measure.
Yeah.
So you have a campaign, your goal is brand awareness, and your content speaks to that. Definitely the report will come back with the brand awareness metrics, which engagement, reach, those soft metrics.
Yeah.
The problem really is when you now, and also you can track these things, so you can follow people through Facebook Pixel that they came from here, they clicked to your website, and that lead came from social media.
The journey,
How it becomes impossible or quite tricky is that if the sale happens maybe 10 months down the line, how do you attribute that to social media? I think that's where now the challenge is, where we now have to start drawing up these measurement frameworks and agree with those frameworks and say, great, social media is part of my long tail framework. You have to understand that within this journey, the person is first inspired, sees really cool content, whether it's shared by a friend or an ad on social media.
Yeah.
But also when they look for you, there's relevant content that speaks to them, and you're continuously engaging that customer throughout their journey.
Yeah.
You're building that reputation, you're building that social proof. That becomes much more powerful when the client is actually ready to make their purchase, because now you become top of mind.
Yeah.
So the See, Think, Do, Care framework, that's a Google framework. Basically, they're using the traditional consumer journey to map out content and measure your content throughout a journey, a particular journey. So that's one of the things that we do as well, where we pretty much like to map up a journey from the time a customer is aware of your brand to when they're in the consideration phase, through when they're actively looking. And also, once we have that sale, how do we continuously engage them? So start developing cool strategies around re-engagement and engaging customers once they've become interested in your brand. But also, I think social media should never be seen, and we're going back to really to what we've started saying, that social media is not just an isolated platform.
Exactly.
But how does it play well within an ecosystem of channels? So you really have to have intent as a marketing manager in terms of how do you use those channels effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, not only do we also come to you with, I think, practical solutions as to how you can navigate that system, but also we come with, because we understand channels, we understand brands, where we can actually say, how do you tailor your messages to speak to your audience throughout this journey.
Yeah. So it closes the loop essentially,
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I think we covered the ROI discussion. I think it's something that, we can sit here and talk for hours.
I know, yeah.
But just to recap, for those who are listening, making sure that there's an educational process that is put in play with the client is very important. We've seen it ourselves and the benefit of educating clients. Making sure that in that education it is understood that social media is not this isolated thing. It is something that plays part of a bigger ecosystem, and constant measuring.
Definitely. I think the challenge here, and also how you can overcome this, is how do you agree with the client? So you need to get to a point where you have a measurement framework that you both agree on, because boardroom metrics or boardroom goals seldom directly translate into social media. So it's a matter of just saying, okay, great, these are my goals. Social media is one of the channels that I want to use. And then start developing this marketing measurement framework to attribute each sale to the marketing ecosystem. I think that's a great basis to start having that honest and
open discussion with your client.
About measurement.
Well, Monks, thank you so much for joining. First podcast done and dusted. Be sure to tune in. We're going to be putting this out. At least we're pushing for, once a week we're putting out a podcast. Really, we're going to be talking about various things. This is just one of many topics. And we'll be having guests as the podcast goes along, coming in and out, covering various topics that we find fascinating and talking about things that we find interesting and grab our attention.
I think it was a great discussion. I'm looking forward to just connecting with a lot of industry people and just finding out also what are some of their challenges and how they've overcome those, and maybe just some words of wisdom.
If you're keen on joining the podcast as well, do drop us a message. Follow us online, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Social Creatures. Who knows, you might be sitting here with one of us chatting and having a chat with us over whatever subject related to social media, marketing, advertising, and any cool story that you want to share with us. So we'll catch you on the flip side. Social Creatures out.